Clone programmable life forms? Can consciousness be engineered? Welcome back to Starseed Essence Media. I'm Eva, your host. Today, we're stepping into one of the most controversial subjects in disclosure: consciousness studies and spiritual philosophy. We're talking about clones, programmable life forms, synthetic biology, and a question that sits right at the center of it all. Can a body be manufactured, but consciousness cannot? Now, before we begin, I want to make something very clear. Many of the ideas we discussed today come from a whistleblower testimony. The purpose of this episode is to explore the question, because sometimes the question is more important than the answer. Imagine for a moment, somewhere in the universe, a civilization exists thousands, perhaps millions of years ahead of humanity. Would they build robots? Probably. Would they use artificial intelligence? I would think so. But would they stop there? Or would they eventually learn to create biological machines, living entities grown for a specific purpose? There's a whistleblower that claims he worked in a deep underground military base working in a lab, that there are things grown, not born, not raised, but designed. This idea appears repeatedly throughout history. Across ancient cultures, we find stories of beings created by gods, engineered by higher intelligences, or brought into existence through sound and vibration. Thousands of years later, modern disclosure researchers are asking a similar question. What if some forms of life are not naturally evolved? What if some are manufactured? One of the most fascinating discussions comes from a claim surrounding what are called Programmable Life Forms, or PLFs. According to these accounts, PLFs are not traditional biological organisms. They may not possess digestive systems. They may not reproduce. Some descriptions suggest they contain hybrid structures of biological tissue and metallic components, almost like a living drone, a biological machine, a temporary body created for specific missions to collect data, observe, interact, then explore. Now, whether these claims are true or not is a separate question. These stories reveal about understanding the life as we know it, because the moment we imagine an artificial, biological being, we are forced to ask, what makes something alive? What makes something alive? Consciousness, a soul. Science would tell us that life requires certain biological processes, cells, energy production through mitochondria. Maybe these beings lack mitochondria in their cells, genetic information, metabolism, reproduction. Yet, some whistleblowers' accounts describe entities that supposedly lack key components we associate with life. No conventional organs. Some even claim that these entities lack mitochondria. And this is where things become very interesting, because mitochondria are often the powerhouse of the cell. Without them, human life as we know it cannot function. So if a being exists without mitochondria, how would it generate energy? And could there be another mechanism of energy making, another biology, or are these observations simply misunderstandings of what was being seen by that whistleblower in the deep underground military base in a lab? We don't know. But the question opens a doorway into something deeper. What if life is more than chemistry? What if biology itself is only the visible layer of a larger process? This idea appears throughout mystical traditions. In the Cab and Chelonic teachings, consciousness is not created by the body. The body is viewed as a receiver, like an antenna, a vehicle, an instrument, a container, a biological instrument through which consciousness expresses life. In that framework, DNA is not consciousness. The brain is not consciousness. The body is not consciousness. They are interfaces. The distinction becomes extremely important when discussing clones, because if a body can be manufactured, Does that automatically create consciousness? CAB teachings would generally say, by cab, I am not referring to Cabamere with the family of Tigetin. I'm referring to the oceanic dean and the Cathara biospiritual healing cab chelonic science material. The subjects of clones comes up in that information. According to chelonic teachings, a biological body can be artificially created or genetically engineered. Consciousness, the soul, identity, or higher self, is considered separate from the body. A clone would be viewed as a biological template or vehicle, not automatically a complete conscious being. Whether a clone has a soul depends on whether consciousness stream incarnates into that form. Some chelonic materials discuss synthetic or artificial life forms, alleged manipulation of DNA involves timelines and interdimensional teachings. It's very interesting with the Oceanidine chelonic teachings. A body and a soul are not the same thing. A body may be engineered. A consciousness stream may enter it. One does not automatically produce the other. So if you have a clone, then that clone is not going to be automatically consciousness. Where does that consciousness come from? This leads to perhaps the most profound question of the entire episode. If an advanced civilization could create a perfect human body tomorrow, would that body be conscious, or would it simply be an empty vessel? I was told that we are 3D printing biological entities. Would consciousness enter that biological entity? Would it develop its own identity? Would it have free will? Would it possess a soul? If you ran into a clone, how would you know that it had a soul or not? These questions are no longer just science fiction. Humanity is beginning to create artificial intelligence. We are just at the starts of it. And look at the exponential growth of it all. Synthetic organs, lab-grown tissues. Yes, synthetic organs, brain-computer interfaces. Don't hide your head in the sand. These things are happening now. The line between biology and technology become thinner and thinner every year. And as that line disappears, an ancient question returns. What are we? What are we? And one of the most fascinating claims from the Programmable Life Forms discussions involves harmonics and frequencies. The suggestion is that advanced civilizations may not construct matter the way we do. Instead of building something mechanically, they may organize matter through resonance, these harmonic 3D printers, through vibration, through frequency. Now, immediately this sounds impossible from our current perspective. Some may say, no, that does not sound impossible, but think about this. Sound already shapes the matter. Cymatics demonstrates that vibration can organize particles into geometrical patterns. Frequency influences biological systems. Every cell in your body communicates through electrical signaling. The universe itself appears deeply mathematical. So, when ancient traditions speak of creating through sound, vibration, or the spoken word, perhaps they are describing something more sophisticated than mythology. Perhaps they were attempting to describe principles we do not yet fully understand, but actually do exist. This brings us to another detailed mention in the testimony. Geometric cells. These geometric cells, the observation that some cellular structures appear highly geometric. Again, we must be careful not to assume this is factual. This is from a whistleblower's testimony working in a deep underground military base in a lab that these biological beings were being grown. Sacred geometry appears everywhere. So if we are witnessing sacred geometry in the cells, they appear everywhere in snowflakes, flowers, galaxies, DNA, crystal formations, planetary systems. The ancient mystery schools taught that geometry was the language of creation, the logos. If consciousness organizes energy and energy organizes matter, perhaps geometry is the bridge between them, and perhaps geometry is the fingerprint of intelligence. And this is where everything begins to connect. The disclosure movement, ancient wisdom traditions, starseed teachings, consciousness research, artificial intelligence, synthetic biology. All roads eventually arrive at the same destination. What is consciousness? Not where consciousness comes from, not what consciousness does, but what consciousness actually is. Is consciousness the soul? Is the soul separate from consciousness? Because if consciousness exists independently of biology, then the creation of a body becomes a very different conversation. A clone is no longer the mystery. The mystery is consciousness itself. Maybe the future isn't about discovering extraterrestrial life. Maybe the future is discovering what life actually is. Maybe the greatest disclosure isn't about a spacecraft or a UFO. Maybe it's about realizing that consciousness is fundamental and that consciousness is not produced by matter. That matter emerges within consciousness, and if that's true, then the universe may be far stranger than we ever imagined. And as we close today's episode, I just want to leave you with one question. If an advanced civilization can engineer a body, can it engineer a soul? Or is consciousness something external, beyond all technology, beyond all genetics, and beyond all physical form? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like it, subscribe, share this conversation with someone who's exploring the mysteries at the edge of science, spirituality, disclosure, and until next time, keep questioning. Namaste. Thank you for watching. Keep exploring and come back. Engage. Comment below. It really matters. And one more thing. Remember, the greatest mystery may not be what's out there. The greatest mystery may be who is looking. Bye-bye for now.
In a universe of infinite stars, you are not separate. You are part of the whole. Welcome to Starseed Essence Media, the portal between worlds where consciousness meets the cosmos, and truth is remembered, not taught. Let's begin.